Not the most stellar of years for car sales. The industry severely scratched by the pandemic, with car sales diving by 51% in the first half of 2020. But crisis notwithstanding, one car manufacturer even launched two new cars in the new normal. To talk about that, we have Ford Philippines Managing Director PK Umashankar. PK, good morning. Great to have you here with us on the show. All right, as expected, Uma, car sales badly hurt due to the crisis, down by half. How was the first 6 months of 2020 like for Ford?
We start off on a good note. I would say that the first couple of months was really roaring high. For example, the Ranger was the highest selling pickup nameplate starting from December and January. It went on a very successful note. And yes, when the pandemic hit us sometime mid March, the segments and the industry tanked, and which was expected because that was what was seen around the world as well. And the good news is that as we came off the Q2, Q3 promises the resurgence of the Filipino consumers. So we see our forecast being slightly improved from what we were originally thinking, but a lot more to see in that space at this point.
But at least, can you give us some figures here by how much has sales at least dipped over the first half of the year for Ford?
So I would say, but the wide industry forecast that the 2020 automotive industry will tank by 40% at least from
Mhm.
the prior forecast, the pre-COVID levels. And much of it is going to sit in the Q2, which suffered the most in terms of the lockdown situation. And rightfully so, the government acts with respect to supporting what is required in the marketplace at this point in time. But there's a slow recovery seen, but I don't think the industry will recover to the pre-COVID levels even at the last quarter. Maybe we'll get to about 75 to 80% levels. So overall, full year, we see anywhere between 30 to 40% drop in the segment overall.
All right, things are not expected to at least go back to pre-COVID levels. But at the same time, were there any behavioral changes for car buyers that you noticed during the pandemic?
Oh, definitely, yes. The consumption online has become multifold at this point in time, and to support that, Ford has done several initiatives in terms of allowing consumers to engage with us on an online portals. We are able to engage with them through our sales consultants by offering vehicle demos virtually to them, and also provide transactions online, cashless processes, etc., which allows consumers to safely engage with us. To also what we did to that is launch something called Ford Safety Guarantee, which reassures consumers that to engage with Ford in a best and most sanitized process that gives them the confidence that the safe engagement is always the Ford promise.
And this digital push that you are maximizing during the period of the health crisis, do you think this is something that you are going to look into even beyond the pandemic?
But that's a great question, Jess. Yes, as we all settle into the new phraseology called new normal, some of that impact is going to be there. It's here to stay. For example, consumers remotely engaging with us, consumers wanted little amount of physical engagement, as little as possible. That will probably be there. That the uh, You would probably carry that for a long time to come. So we as businesses need to adjust and be appropriate to consumers to engage with us. So yes, contactless payment systems, remote engagement, pick up and drop facilities where customers have minimal engagement. Plus the technology also lends itself in a way where Ford vehicles today talk about once a year vehicle service or 10,000 kilometers, whichever is earlier. So you don't have to get into the dealerships that often. That minimizes their engagement with us as well because of the engine technology allows us to do that. But yes, this is here to stay, and we need to get ourselves tuned to the new normal, the way consumers want to operate.
And one way that you actually get to spark confidence, at least for car buyers here, is through financing. So did you have to make some adjustments here when it comes to your financing just agreements, at least for your customers?
But that's a very important part of a business because The financing end of vehicle business is almost two-thirds and above for Philippines. So it's important that part of engagement is done safely and securely. And most important is that while the financing business gets done, are the consumers ready to pay for the vehicle as they come off the situation that we are in today? So we, engaging with the banking partners, have launched something like a deferral program or low payment at initial engagement programs to alleviate the pains of paying high as they acquire the vehicles. For example, a couple of our products has got a deferral programs up to 4 months. So you acquire a vehicle now, start paying 3 or 4 months down the line. So that kind of alleviates the pain for consumers at this point in time. At the same time, gives them the power to get into the vehicles much earlier. So yes, that the financing angle of business is the most important part of the auto vehicle sales at this point in time.
And at the same time, what operational changes you have had to put in place during the pandemic here, especially when talking about not just your customers here, but also your employees and your dealers?
That's very important because all our stakeholders, dealers, employees are critical in this part of business. So when we went into a lockdown, March the 16th, what we did is that the work from home protocol was put in place for Ford employees, and even dealers started doing the same thing. And during that phase, we started crafting something called, a return to work toolbook, which it's about 115-page document, which clearly highlights every aspect of revised new normal engagement to the consumers. And we went about training every role holder within the dealership for them to do a proper engagement when customers come by. So we ensure that this philosophy is completely manifested in every engagement we do with the consumers. So they have a safe engagement, but we also have a process behind to deliver that in a sustainable manner over time. In fact, there is a video that we have put in social media talking about Ford Safety Guarantee to highlight the same thing. For
Mm-hmm.
employees, as I said, the return to work toolbook, while it is there, we are very careful about the return to work processes. We have allowed an absolute remote working choices with employees. Employees will get back to work when they feel comfortable to get back to work. That's the level of choice that is there in Ford employees at this point in time. I don't believe that anytime soon this year our employees will be getting back, not because they don't want to, because we made the work from home as a viable alternative for them. In fact, we have allowed employees to take home their furniture from the office, their chairs, their desktop machines, their even the mouse pads and stuff like that, which gave them a complete freedom to work from home in the way they were working while they were in the office premises previously. So yes, that's a new normal. Maybe Ford will have a significant portion of its people always working remotely going forward.
All right. So even in a sales-driven industry like the automotive industry, work from home setup still a viable option. Now, how are things looking like for the quarters ahead for Ford? What are your targets and what are you banking on this time around?
So, just as I said, definitely the Q3 is looking up. In fact, the month of June came in stronger than what we thought. That is a beginning of green shoots, I would say, where the pessimism that we built in our industry forecast is kind of weathering off, and we can see the improvement coming through. Over 16,000 vehicles delivered in the month of June is a great number from what we originally thought. July is probably going to go over 18,000 at least, which is a good thing for us because July traditionally is a slower month than June from an industry experience, but it is going to be higher because of a low base in the month of June. That's not just done by the new product introduction. It is the resurgence of the consumers. We are seeing increased amount of prospect base in our system. We have seen our year-on-year prospect inputs higher than what it was previously. That shows that the consumers out there are looking to own a vehicle. That is very positive. We have to work through with them to make sure that the processes like the financing part of the business is available to them, accessible to them, easier for them to make the business work. So I have a strong view for the second half of this year. We will bounce back, and I believe the Q4 should be at least 80% levels of what it was last year.
All right. And this time around, you did mention new product introductions. You're braving the new normal by introducing the Ford Territory that's bound to go online next month, as well as launching new models of the F-150 and the EverSport. Why brave the market now of all times?
Uh, that's a very important part of a business, Jess, because while product plans take a longer gestation, anywhere between 12 months to 2 years before it comes into fruition in the marketplace. So all the products were already in the pipeline. We were looking for the right moment to engage with the consumers, understanding the sentiments and the willingness of consumers to step out. And we started off with the Everest Sport launch end of May. That gave a great support because we were the first ones to go out and do an online launch. And we had good support from the media with respect to that, and more than that from the consumers, where Everest Sport started doing great inroads at the price point that it was launched at 1.898 million. Followed that confidence and few other manufacturers going online, we brought in the icon back to Philippines after close to 2 decades. That is the F-150, as we introduced it uh, in the month of May. What it brought to us pretty much is the testimony that this product is here to redefine the expectations of the consumers in this market. And what we did also is to make sure that we engage with media in a way that they have an ability to look at a vehicle through a camera they can remotely operate with a person on the studio while I was responding to every one of their questions. I took media interviews starting 9 in the morning all the way to 3 in the afternoon with my colleague continuing all the way to night. So we gave time to every media house to have their engagement to make sure that they do not lose out on their physical engagement with the product and get to know about the product up and close. That came out to be a new normal in the way of B delivering an online launch became a benchmark for other manufacturers to follow. And yes, we are on the next process right now. We are on the pedestal to launch an entirely new nameplate in the Ford stable very soon,
All right.
the Territory.
Definitely
Yeah.
lots of optimism there for Ford Philippines here despite the pandemic. Great things ahead there for you guys. Thank you very much, PK Umashankar, Managing Director of Ford Philippines.
Thank you so much, Jess. Appreciate the opportunity.